Hello and welcome to Diecast Diaries. I'm Dan, and the subject of this video is something that's kind of intrigued me for a number of years. And the model, or should I say toy in question, is this. So it's the Matchbox Superkings Peterbilt Fire Spotter plane transporter, and on the face of it, to a lot of you, this might not seem anything particularly special. It's not a rare model at all. It's one that was available for a number of years from Matchbox. It was actually originally released by them in 1985 and would continue on and off up until 1993. So not a rare model by any means. But the reason it's kind of intrigued me is the fact that I never actually had this when I was little. So between the years of sort of 1985 to 1993, I'd have been kind of like 6 to about 13, kind of my main age for when I was really interested in Matchbox cars, and just really surprised that this isn't one that I ever had. I used to get the Matchbox catalogues every year, and I would obviously eagerly kind of thumb through them to see what new models they were bringing out that year. Obviously, earmarking certain ones for future purchases. And I can only imagine that this one must have stood out straight away, and I would have assumed would have gone straight to the top of any kind of birthday or Christmas list. I don't remember asking for it for any birthday or Christmas. It's quite likely that it did, and the reason I never actually got it may just simply be because in those sort of pre-internet days, you could only get something that was available at any of your local toy shops or whatever. There wasn't an option to kind of order anything from elsewhere. So it may just have been something as simple as that. But it's a shame because it's almost like the perfect model really for me. It's an American truck. I've always liked American trucks. It's in fire department markings. Well, I've always liked fire engines, and it's got a plane on the back. I think the only thing that would have made it kind of even more perfect was if somehow it also happened to be military. But yeah, so yeah, as I say, very surprised. I would have thought this would have been something that would have been probably one of my favourite toys when I was little. But yeah, sadly, it's just not one I ever had. I've kind of sort of like been looking for one on and off for a while. It's actually only last year that I finally sort of got this one off eBay. As I said earlier, it's not a particularly rare model, but it's one that can go sometimes for a little bit more than I was kind of prepared to pay for it. It's also one that I did kind of really want to get a boxed example. There are quite a few sort of fragile bits on it, sort of on the truck, and obviously on the plane itself. And of course, the plane itself detaches from the trailer, so it could easily go missing. So I was quite keen to get a boxed one. So yeah, I actually have not had this in my collection for that long, but it's one that, yeah, I'm really glad I finally sort of picked it up. But yeah, as I say, just surprised that I never had it when I was little. So as I said, it was originally released by Matchbox in 1985. This is actually the 1986 release of it. This version was released between 1986 and 1988. It then dropped out of the catalogues for a couple of years before reappearing in 1991 as part of the sort of like sub-series of the Super Kings range called Emergency. Obviously, just all the emergency branded vehicles. They were in sort of specially branded boxes rather than kind of the normal Super Kings boxes like this one. But yeah, after 1993, it disappeared for good. So, as I say, this is the 1986 boxing. It's, again, typical Matchbox, sort of nice and eye-catching. You've got obviously very colourful with the sort of red and yellow stripes and obviously the Matchbox logo. But it's kind of a shame that they didn't sort of feature the truck in the sort of main artwork on the box. They've actually featured the ERF fire engine, which was obviously another vehicle that Matchbox made. There's a simple line drawing just showing the plane. But it is kind of a shame. I'm guessing that maybe all the kind of emergency related vehicles in the Super Kings range had the ERF fire engine. I'm assuming they just used the same picture for all of them. But it is a shame because I think that would look really good as some featuring in proper Matchbox artwork. The only kind of artwork of it is kind of what I've used for my backdrop, which is just what appears on the end. It's the same on both ends of the box. On the rear, we've got some line drawings of the vehicle, again just showing all the working features of it. But another lovely bit of colour artwork on the back. Okay, at least this time the plane does feature, sort of just flying off there. But the main sort of focus of the artwork is the Unimog fire engine, which actually came in a Super Kings gift set, along with that fire engine in the background. There's the ERF making another appearance, and I think it's the sort of Coast Guard Patrol, Matrancho and boat trailer. So yeah, it's a shame that there was no kind of big artwork featuring the truck. I think it would look really good. So other than that, I think it's just fairly standard Superkings boxing, and this one actually mentions a special feature that this version had, which is actually has automatic steering. As it turned out, the earlier version, the one from 1985, doesn't have that, so it's obviously a feature they decided to introduce for the later versions. So what we'll do is we'll get it out and we'll have a look at it. So let's unscrew that. There we go. Let's remove that. So there's the vehicle. It's quite a sort of heavy casting. It's one that's kind of pretty much all metal. The sort of chassis underneath is metal. What I'd like to know is whether this is based on any kind of a real vehicle. Obviously, the actual truck, it's the Peterbilt truck car, that's kind of obviously based on a real vehicle. But whether any were actually used by kind of fire departments, yeah, I'd like to know. You can imagine it being the sort of vehicle you'd see in kind of places like any kind of area of the US where they've got a lot of forests. So you've got places like, you know, Oregon and certain areas of California, and even sort of up in Alaska and Canada and places like that. You can imagine them sort of using this type of aircraft, and obviously needing a means of transporting it between airfields, things like that. So yeah, so it's the basic Peterbilt casting used in a lot of different Super Kings models, but this one's been made different by adding on this cabin. I'm assuming that's what the plane crew and support crew would probably travel in. It's nice in that the cabin is all metal. You think with it just being like an add-on to an existing model, they might have just done it simply in plastic, but no, it's all metal. You can actually see it is hollow underneath, so there's obviously no interior on that at all, but it really doesn't matter. It's got the blue tinted windows, so that it means you get the blue lights on top, although the cab windows themselves are sort of nice and clear. And you steer it by moving I think the air coolers from side to side. You can see the front axle moving there. It's a little bit stiff, and it's not something I kind of really want to sort of force. But yeah, it's sort of interesting that Matchbox decided on later versions of this sort of introduce like a nice sort of working feature like that. So that's the truck cab. And then the trailer, obviously the basic trailer is one, again, that's appeared in a number of different Super King sets, just obviously done in different colours. I think it's used, there's a helicopter transporter, and I think various different kind of vehicles that various Super King models have been transporting. But yeah, with this one, you got a very nice plane. I'll just sort of quickly show you the trailer. So it is just, as I say, just a very basic Matchbox Super Kings low loader trailer. It's just been obviously given matching wheels for the truck. So here's the plane. The plane is all plastic, as probably can be expected, and just it is a little bit fragile, so you just have to kind of unclip those to get the wings off. And the same on this side, sort of just, oh, there we go, get that off. And then I'll just try and get the plane here. It does actually. There are actually a couple of different features of this plane. The plane actually is I'm never sure how you pronounce this, but it's a Canadian-built aircraft, and the company that makes it's called Nordoin or Nordine. I apologise if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. It's spelled Norduyn, and it's actually a Norseman is the name of the aircraft. It was also kind of widely used by the military during the Second World War, and in military usage it was known as the UC-64, basically just like a utility cargo plane for sort of general sort of transport purposes. It's actually most famous in military usage for being the type of plane that Glenn Miller went missing in, the sort of American band leader. There we go. So that's just the kind of carriage, if you like, just for attaching to the trailer so that the plane sort of slots in place. I'll just put that over there. So here's the actual plane. I'll just get the wings on. Now, it's a fairly obscure type of plane that Matchbox have chosen, and I'm guessing that they chose it because it was a plane they did as part of their extensive plastic kit range. I'll slot those in there. So there we go. That's the plane. So it's like red plastic fuselage and floats, and then obviously silver-plated wings. Sort of quite an eye-catching scheme. So it is a sort of plane that, as I say, it does originally date from the 1940s, but it's a plane that's had quite a long civilian career. It's used in a lot of places like Alaska and Canada as kind of what they call like a bush plane. And because it is quite versatile, it's quite a tough plane. I imagine it's quite a simple plane, but quite rugged, easy to maintain. And it can be fitted with either wheels, floats, or also skis. So the Matchbox plane also has two of those. So clearly it's got the floats. Then it also has, I can just try and get these off, a little bit, there we go. It's also got wheels. Kind of a pity, it looks better. I think this particular one looks better with the floats on, because it seems a shame. I know it's all because it's moulded in the same colour, but it kind of seems a shame that the wheels are just kind of quite simply moulded in red plastic like that. So I think it does look better with the floats on. But as I say, that's kind of a feature of the real plane, that it could have sort of various different sort of configurations for its landing gear. For what is a plastic, a sort of just a simple sort of plastic accessory in a way, it's quite nicely detailed. But as I say, I think that is because it will be based on the model kits. It's got quite a nice bit of engine detail at the front there. It's Matchbox did have a habit of producing some quite unusual aircraft as part of their plastic kit range. I think some that no other kit manufacturers ever did. I'm certainly not aware of anyone else who ever did a Norseman. So, but that's what this is. So yeah, it's a nicely detailed but fairly simple plastic model. But as I say, I do think it looks better with the floats, and it should just clip back in. Just being careful with this. It is a bit of a fiddle, I have to say. So I think what I'll do is I'll put that all together afterwards. So I'll just pop this at the back there. Now, as I mentioned, this was the 1986 release, and this was the one that was available until 1988. I do actually have the earlier release from 1985, and that is here. So it's basically the same. The main sort of difference is, obviously, there's a few colour differences. You can see on this one, the whole of the chassis is red, and there are some obviously slightly different markings. So that one's Patrol Unit 12. This one's Unit number 23. I do actually think it looks pretty smart in the all red scheme. But yeah, the other main difference is this one doesn't have any kind of steering function at all. Normally, I've always kind of been made aware of manufacturers sort of simplifying the models as the casting goes on. So you kind of think any kind of working features like that would have been dropped for later ones, but obviously it's the reverse in this case. So that's the cab units. It's got a nice sort of yellow. It really stands out nicely against the red, the sort of yellow markings there, number 23. So that's the cab. And then very similar again, except this one, the sort of cradle for the planes in black plastic. The plane's in very similar markings. Obviously, it's got the 23, and this one actually says Fire Observer Unit 23. The wings, again, are silver, but in this one, they don't have the red stripe on it. It just says Fire in nice sort of bold yellow letters. But yeah, it's unfortunately with this one, this is one that, again, I picked up off eBay. It was quite cheap, unboxed obviously, and unfortunately the plane is missing its horizontal stabilizers. I don't know whether that's something I'd ever be able to kind of pick up, but as I say, it was a good price, and the rest of the truck I thought was in pretty good condition. In fact, I'd say it's almost in mint condition. The plane's not actually broken. The stabilizers would just sort of slot in there. They've obviously just come loose at some point and just gone missing. So unfortunately, but yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get one. Get a replacement at some point. The other difference, of course, is that the propeller on this one is black. I think it actually looks better in black. It's kind of a unusual sort of beige colour on this one. It's a bit odd. So that's the two versions that I've got. There was another version. As I say, there was a pause after 1988. It kind of dropped out of the catalogue, but was then brought back in 1991 and would last until 1993. And that version was, again, the one with the working axle. And the livery was, for the truck, was pretty similar. But I think instead of it having, I think it still had the same number on it. It was still number 12. But instead of a white stripe like this one's got, it had a yellow stripe. The plane did look quite different. Because unlike these two, which are kind of both red with silver wings, the plane for the last version was actually all silver, or certainly all the fuselage was silver. I think the engine cowling might have been red, but yeah, the rest of it was all silver. It does look quite unusual. I think that version of the plane was also sold as part of a gift set that included a number of the other Matchbox Superkings emergency vehicles. So it didn't include the transporter, but the plane itself was included as part of that. And I'm pretty sure that was the later version, the silver one. I'm guessing that would also have been in this same Superkings emergency sub-series kind of style boxes. So that's the three versions that Matchbox did. But yeah, as I say, it's just one of those models. It probably doesn't seem that special to some people. As I say, it's certainly not a rare model at all, but it's just one that I've always liked, and kind of I've got a number of old Matchbox catalogues, and it's ones that it always stood out. I kind of look flicking through them every now and again. You kind of think, oh yeah, that was a really cool looking model. That, why did I never have it? And then more recently, I've got a couple of Matchbox books that kind of go into quite a bit of detail about all the models that are kind of released, and it includes the Super Kings range. And of course, again, this features, and again, I found myself thinking, oh yeah, we should add that when I was little. But yeah, so regardless, as I say, it might have been just, as I say, a very mundane reason as to why I never had it, but really pleased to sort of get it now, add it to the collection. So I will just attach that one back up there. So that's the two versions that I've got, at least, of the Matchbox Superkings Peterbilt, fire spotter plane transporter. So yeah, just to as I say, maybe not the sort of most exciting model to some people, but it's one that I've always liked. I just thought it'd be quite nice to do a little video on it. So and also, as I say, it does tie in with a lot of the other sort of fire engines that I've got. So now, after today, I'm actually going to be on holiday for a couple of weeks, so there will be a kind of a bit of a pause in the videos. But I will obviously be returning after Easter I've got obviously a number of other videos I'm still wanting to do, so there's plenty more to come. But yeah, just sort of let you know, there will be a slight pause in the videos kind of being released for a couple of weeks or so. But don't worry, in the meantime, please do like, share, subscribe and comment. And I wish you all a very happy Easter, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.